Hallo zusammen. I'm Dave from Definitely German, and today you're gonna learn how Germans say once in a blue moon in German and which vocabulary you can take away from it. Let's go. So before we're gonna tackle the German equivalent of this phrase, let's actually find out what the meaning of this one is. When do you say it and why do you say it? Well, whenever a situation and or action is really rare and takes place extremely rarely, that situation or that action only happens once in a blue moon. In German, a really important term in this context is selten, rare or rarely. And you can even combine that with an increasing particle. You could say something like sehr selten, very rarely, extrem selten, extremely rarely, or rare, of course, or something like total selten, totally rare, or rarely, ultra selten, ultra rarely, or even in a combined form, if you will, nur sehr selten, only very rarely. Why do I stress this? Well, because you can actually form a phrase like nur einmal alle paar Jahre, only once in a couple of years. Or more idiomatically, alle Jubeljahre einmal, once every few years. So you see, we wouldn't actually translate the English phrase to German, but if you were to do it, it would be something like einmal an einem blauen Mond, or in einem blauen Mond, within the moon, even though that's not meant here, of course. For einmal, once, an, at, which is a different preposition, as you can see. In German, we would link it to, it being a calendar event, a day in the calendar or a date. Therefore, we would say an, einmal an einem blauen Mond, once at a day with a blue moon, if you will. Einem, which is the dative masculine singular of ein, a. Blauen, blue, which is the weak adjective declension of the dative masculine blau, blue. And last but not least, of course, der Mond, singular, die Monde, plural, the moon. So what would be a common example of using this phrase in German? You could use it in a conversation like, wie häufig siehst du eigentlich deinen Bruder? Ach, nur alle paar Jahre einmal. If at all. To me, being a non-English native speaker, if that makes sense, this phrase is really interesting and really vibrant in a way. I learned about the term once in 2004 with the eponymously titled Nightwish album. And the phrase itself, I think I first heard a few years ago when I discovered the discography of Joni Mitchell. Because she has a song, Night Ride Home, on the eponymously titled album. That song begins with, once in a while, in a big blue moon, there comes a night like this. I pictured that scenery and I was like, okay, a blue moon. Where does the idea of a blue moon come from? Well, according to my research, the first option is based on an optic illusion, if you will. I reckon the main imagery is linked to a situation when volcanic ash and or the remnants of a forest fire fill the air, letting the moon appear to be of a rather blue color as a result. Makes sense, okay. However, and surprising to me, there's also a link to the calendar. Or you could also say to the full moon circle, because the blue moon means that it's either the second full moon in a single month, or it's the scenario of a third full moon in a season with 4. They were seen as exception to the rule, and therefore being described as blue moons, which, okay, I mean, it sort of makes sense, but then again it doesn't, because why blue? Why not green? A green moon. I also researched that, and apparently there seems to be a transformation of an old English word. Back in Renaissance days, meaning especially in 1528, a satire used the phrase "the moon is blue" to describe an idea so absurd that it was like saying the moon is made of cheese, so it wasn't about rarity, but rather obscurity. And people shifted the meaning of the term and they linked it to the old English word blauen, which means to betray. So it's actually a false etymology, a false origin story, if you will. This whole origin story is so rad that I guess it only happens once in a blue moon. And with that being said, I hope you learned something new. I sure did. Do you have English expressions that you would like to learn the German equivalents of? If so, feel free to tell me in the comments down below. And thank you very much for supporting the channel in every way, shape or form. It's much appreciated. And with that being said, definitely see you next time. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal.